You are listening to the Body Charge podcast, and I'm your host, Sandy Sanderson. Welcome to the Body Charge podcast. Today's interview is about how to fix the metabolic downslide. The global prevalence of metabolic diseases, especially type 2 diabetes and obesity, has risen over the past 2 decades, regardless of socio-economic index. What are the underlying causes of this decline in health? My special guest today is Dr. Ann Hester, a double board certified physician and transformational health coach. She's author of Patient Empowerment 101, as well as creator of the PTR Reset program, which focuses on natural ways to help prevent, treat, and reverse chronic metabolic diseases. So welcome aboard, Dr. Ann. Lovely to have you on the Body Charge podcast.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
So my first question is, what are the factors causing this upward trend in metabolic diseases? And there's quite a number of them, but I always feel like there's the main root cause, and then it branches out into lots of different trajectories. So what is a metabolic disease fundamentally?
Well, fundamentally, your mitochondria, basically your power plants of your cells, they're not functioning well. Metabolic diseases include things like obesity and type 2 diabetes, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and other conditions. And so there are multiple potential causes. Some people have a genetic predisposition to certain diseases, but your genes rarely define you, your habits do. And so to try to simplify this, let's just kind of think of this as like a metabolic triad. The food quality, the digestive efficiency, and the cellular energy production. Again, your mitochondria, they're like the powerhouses of your cells. And when anything is broken down, any of these three things are broken down, then you're going to have difficulties such as metabolic diseases. And so your mitochondria turn the food that you eat into energy, and multiple things can impact that. You can have healthy mitochondria, or you can have sickly mitochondria, and you can eat and eat and eat. But if your mitochondria are not producing the right amount of energy, you're still going to feel hungry. You may still have sugar cravings, even though you've eaten many calories. From your cell standpoint, you're starving because your mitochondria is not making the energy. So for instance, if you have healthy mitochondria, the molecules that deal with your energy, we call them ATP. So for a given amount of glucose, you may produce 30 ATP molecules. When your mitochondria is diseased or is malfunctioning, you might produce 2. And so again, this deals with your energy. So your body is seeing, I don't have enough energy. And so you want more and more, and you're craving more, mainly carbs. And that's how this cycle really gets out of hand.
How do the mitochondria get sick? What causes them to have a go slow?
Well, multiple things. So poor food choices. For instance, ultra-processed foods. Their calories, you're feeding your stomach, making it stretch, but you're not feeding your cells. You can have too much acid. Your acidity level can be too high. For instance, broccoli is more along the alkalinizing path, whereas cheese is more along the acidic path. And so when your mitochondria are seeing too much acid, one thing that can happen, and it's a phenomenon we call the Bohr's effect, your cells do not release enough oxygen. And so you're breathing in, you're getting oxygen in, but the oxygen is relatively stuck to the hemoglobin molecule. The hemoglobin is in your red blood cells, and it carries the oxygen. And when you're too much on the acidic side, then the hemoglobin wants to hold on to the oxygen and not let it go. So the mitochondria cannot use the oxygen. And so things flip to a form of metabolism that is anaerobic, it's not using the oxygen. And that's where we get to the difficulty with too few ATP molecules being made. Toxins certainly can impact your mitochondria. Other things like a low magnesium level, that can impact it. So stress, not exercising, not sleeping, all of those things can make for unhealthy mitochondria. Unhealthy mitochondria means you can eat, your stomach is stretched, but your cells are still saying, I'm hungry. And so that's why you continue to crave more food. And as you crave more food, and often people crave carbs, that can result in extra weight gain, which makes it worse. You're going to be more resistant to insulin, more likely to get diabetes. It's just like this downhill spiral.
It's a cycle. Yeah, just to summarize before you go on a bit further. So the key thing is we're being starved of oxygen in a metabolic with a metabolic issue, because oxygen can't be dissolved in an acidic environment enough. We can't get enough oxygen unless the cells have an alkaline environment. Yeah, and the toxins or whatever we might absorb from the environment that maybe inhibits magnesium can block our vital nutrients that are essential for metabolism, or an acidic environment itself can be a block because it's not absorbing enough
Yeah,
oxygen. So you get like a waste pile up in the cell. Is that right? It's
exactly.
like a compost heap where all the rubbish accumulates, and then the bugs move in, or certain bacterial or microorganisms, and they naturally gravitate towards acidic environments because it's their job to decompose and decay things that aren't expressing a full life force in optimal wellness. So it's just a natural cycle, and once we
Yes.
recognize that environment, it controls everything, we can change the environment to create a more alkaline cellular environment to absorb more oxygen. And now let's get back onto this anaerobic system, and the acidity and why it is that we crave carbs. Do they create a lot more acidity in that anaerobic metabolic process?
Well, one thing is when you're flipped to the anaerobic, process, then you're going to need more energy. You're going to be craving energy, and carbs are a very quick source of energy. They don't have to be broken down as much as some of the other forms,
Mhm.
the fat and the protein and so forth. Carbs are more readily usable. And carbs, when you talk about the cellular metabolism, basically this is glucose, sugar. And so that's one reason that your body is going to be craving more carbs when your metabolic system is not working appropriately. Your mitochondria aren't working. Other things like a low B vitamin level, that's important. You're not getting the nutrients, you're not getting the magnesium, the B
Yeah.
vitamins, the potassium, you're getting too much salt. All of
Or,
those things are
or maybe
important.
gut microbiome is out of balance and you've got too many bad bugs in there.
Yes, the gut is the second brain. So the gut deals with everything, 90% of the serotonin you make that impacts your mood and a lot of other things that's made in the gut. The gut is huge. And when you have a whole food, plant predominant diet, your gut becomes very happy. You have a lot of fiber, you have all the nutrients, the things that the gut bacteria want to feed on. And on the other hand, when you eat a lot of junk, then your gut is not getting the building blocks it needs, and the balance gets off. So the bad bacteria can build up, and the
Because they
good
love
bacteria,
acidity, don't they? The pathogenic bacteria
the
that cause
pathogenic,
disease,
absolutely.
they
And then
love
that can
acid.
also
Yep.
create a leaky gut. And so just imagine the cells like having a zipper. And so you want the zipper to be tight between your gut, where you have the stool, and the bacteria and the toxins, and your bloodstream. And when your gut is not happy, we can develop a leaky gut. And so just imagine that zipper unwind some. And so there's more room for not just the nutrients to pass that border from your gut to the bloodstream, but also toxins. And toxins also impact the amount of acidity in your body. Excuse me. Lactic acid can build up. And so you lean more toward the acidic side. And so leaky gut is the last thing you want, because you're talking about toxins entering the bloodstream. And again, we get back to a whole food, plant predominant diet. That's very important. And that's one of the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine.
I'll just interject a little bit while you're maybe need a glass of water there. Um, so the barrier of the gut is extremely as important because the inside of the gut really is still the outside of the body. So it's a big long tube from your mouth to the back end,
Yes,
and passing through various stages. And so the gut needs to be very selective to bring in, first of all, you've got to digest food properly in the stomach. You've got to have enough stomach acid, enough enzymes to do that properly. And if you don't, a lot of people can develop autoimmune issues because partly digested proteins are
exactly.
recognized by the body as foreign, and then
Yes,
that triggers the immune system. So a lot of issues can happen in the gut. And when you get leaky gut or a compromised barrier, your defenses go down. You can also absorb those toxins into the brain across the blood-brain barrier,
yes,
can't you?
can, absolutely can.
And
Cause
so it
mental
can cause
fogginess
mental
and other
issues.
things.
Yeah. But much more than brain fog, mental issues. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, it's vitally important that we get our barriers sorted out, our membranes.
Absolutely.
You
And
know,
it's just a
yeah.
very small, it's like a cell. Your immune system is very strongly linked to your gut. And so you mentioned how you get sick easier. Your immune system, it starts recognizing things that aren't, that it thinks are foreign, and it starts attacking your cells. Your immunity goes down, you get sick easier. So the gut literally, in medical school, a while back, they called it the second brain, but it really is that, because it impacts so many vital functions in your body. And you can keep your gut healthier based on the food, and not just the foods. Also, stress can mess up your gut microbiome. Not exercising enough, not sleeping enough, all of those things can mess up your gut microbiome. And you need that microbiome to be as healthy as possible.
Yeah. So I think getting back to the acidity issue at the cellular, the fundamental level, um, how do we turn around an acidic condition and bring the cells back to an alkaline condition where they're absorbing more oxygen, the waste products are being removed properly?
Mhm.
It's like a little biological factory, right? So there's input of resources, there's energy production, and there's output of wastes. And so
Yes.
when any of these cycles get stuck, we get sick. So how do
Mhm.
we turn that around?
Well, one of the first things is that whole food, plant predominant diet, because you are feeding your gut microbiome. Another thing is stress reduction. Stress increases cortisol and does many other things. Restful sleep, even hugs. You release this love hormone called oxytocin. Strong relationships release this hormone, and oxytocin helps counterbalance cortisol. Again, exercise, the toxins. You want to get rid of the toxins. You need a healthy liver, a healthy gallbladder, and healthy colon. Those things help detoxify.
Yeah.
And so you want to get as much of this out. Magnesium is great. One thing you can do that serves multiple purposes when you go to bed, before you go to bed at night, take a nice soak in a warm Epsom salt bath. And so the magnesium, it can be absorbed in the skin, and that can help magnesium deficiency. Also, when you take that bath, it calms you. And so you're more likely to get better sleep, which is going to improve cortisol,
And
which is going
yep,
to impact your gut
bathing also allows the skin to open up and release
and
wastes via the lymph
detoxify.
system. The lymphatics let out through the skin, and that does lift the load off the liver. So you're using another pathway also to get rid of wastes.
All of these things can be intertwined. One thing can do multiple positive things for your health. And
Yes.
another thing, magnesium, that helps your gut, helps decrease the chance of constipation. And just imagine all these toxins in your gut, and you're constipated, and they're not being moved out. And so they're being reabsorbed into the body. So that's another positive thing
Yeah.
that magnesium can do.
And magnesium attracts water. So when you have a lot of it as a laxative, it brings a lot of water into the bowel and causes a watery stool. However, in that case, we're not absorbing all of the magnesium that's present because it's eliminated too quickly via the gut. So there's one aspect is it's useful if you need to use it as a laxative. However, the transdermal route is probably a lot better to get a higher amount of magnesium, which is through the skin. So we can bathe in it, spray it on, rub it on, use magnesium cream, magnesium lotion. So it's using our environment to feed the skin, which is a reservoir, and the body then has the choice of what it absorbs over time, and nothing is artificially pushed into the body. So these systems are very passive. So that's why they're very gentle and very, very tolerable for people. And it bypasses the digestive system, where many people with some kind of illness, the digestive system, from the stress of that illness, for whatever reason, the vagus nerve may be not working the way it should, can't digest. If they may have hypothyroidism, they're not producing enough stomach acid. So, for various reasons, the digestive system is unable to cope with the tablets. However, it can absorb magnesium salt through the skin, which is wonderful, wonderful fallback position, an alternative which is very gentle, and to help people recover from the stress, as you mentioned. And stress causes excessive loss of magnesium in the urine, so we do need to put a lot more back when under stress. It could be shift work. It's not just mental or emotional stress, although that's big. But physical
Absolutely.
stress, burning the candle at both ends, not
Yes.
sleeping. Not sleeping is huge, because it wrecks your adrenals as well, which is what I found out 17 years ago. And that's what led me on my path to
Oh,
discover
okay.
the benefits of magnesium. Yeah, I've totally recovered without drugs or medications, simply by changing my environment, to absorb the nutrients I needed, because I had Hashimoto's. So I know about the stomach digestion. I know about the difficulty in digesting. Even fresh, healthy, organic food can be an issue if you're not producing enough stomach acid. You can't break down
Absolutely.
the proteins properly, and you need the good proteins. You need the fats. You need everything working well in digestion to recover from ill health, which is very difficult if you're in a very bad situation where you've experienced a low metabolic rate. It's you need a lot of plate spinning to recover that downward spiral and make it go up again. So you've got to be very gentle to your body, which is why it's great to have a coach, such as what you're doing for people, because not one t-shirt fits all. We need someone to help see who we are and where we are located as an individual, and then tailor make the recovery process to fit our needs properly. You
I
don't
agree.
just get a bottle of pills and whack it down.
Oh, if we can avoid pills, that's the best route. I mean, if you can do things naturally, if you put your body in a situation, your body can heal naturally. that is a win-win. You want to minimize anything that's made at a pharmaceutical company. I mean, if you need it, yes. But if the body is able to heal itself, if you give it the right environment, that is what you really want to focus on first.
Yes, and can't be feeling calm and relaxed, which is what magnesium helps you to do, helps you get a better sleep. And sleep is a major, major factor in recovery because that's the time where the cells renew, right? That's where the time where the brain, the CNS fluid gets cleaned out. Everything gets refreshed and renewed during sleep, deep sleep.
A lot of
And
people don't know about that. The lymphatic system, when you're in that deep sleep, it's kind of like a cleanup crew that comes and gets rid of the toxins around your brain. But and in many societies, just working really hard, that is glorified. But if you're not sleeping and your brain is not able to clear itself of these toxins, you're just not going to be as productive.
well,
And so
it
that's
feels like
something that
a
really,
hangover if you're not getting a deep sleep. You wake
mm,
up and you haven't even drunk any alcohol, but it feels the same because it's the
right,
waste products that
toxins.
remain.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yes,
so sleep, exercise is also important to help induce sleep and also getting I believe fresh sunshine and full spectrum light, daytime light because that
yes.
that resets the suprachiasmatic
The
mm,
nucleus, super,
nucleus, yes,
yes.
thank you,
Mhm.
of the brain, which is your, rhythm, your day and night rhythm and sleep cycle. And so that's really difficult for people on shift work. I feel for them. They probably need to, get a health coach and work out how to mitigate the issues of not getting enough sunlight.
Yes,
Yeah.
agree. The sunlight does so many things from decreasing stress, change your hormone levels, impact your ability to sleep well, vitamin D. It does a great deal. And you mentioned shift work.
Mm.
There's been a link between shift work and increased risk of breast cancer and other issues. So, in addition to not feeling your best, now there's scientific data that suggests that it is associated with very important diseases.
Well, yes. So at the end of the day, it's stress all the time. If you look at all of the issues, can always trace it back to some kind of stress which created overload in the body, and the resources that we have couldn't cope. And so it tips it into, so it switches the genes to a different setting, doesn't it? And then we
I
produce
love
something
that.
that's not good for, yeah, I liken it to the dial on the washing machine.
Mhm.
All the settings are there in the genes, but where have you switched the dial to on those settings? And that's determined by environment, isn't it?
Absolutely. I love that. I use that analogy. You have a switch in all of your cells. Your daily habits flip that switch toward disease or away from it. And a lot of people don't understand the field of epigenetics is basically what we're talking about is you might have a genetic predisposition towards something. You might have a mother with diabetes or a father with a condition, but very few diseases are transmitted in a dominant fashion, which means that what you do can help flip that switch toward disease or toward health every day. And so we have tremendous power over the likelihood that we develop the diseases that our relatives have. And these natural things, the appropriate diet, whole food, plant predominant diet, the stress reduction, the connections, the restorative sleep, the toxin avoidance. Those are the sorts of things. The exercise, all of those things flip that switch one way or the other every day, and we control that.
Yes, we have the power. It's just relearning old bad habits, isn't it? And we probably should be teaching children at school a lot more about nutrition and how to
Absolutely.
just live a healthy life, how to make better choices.
Yeah.
So the food pyramid's recently been flipped in America by RFK Jr.
Mhm.
to mean that the carbs are now in the lowest portion, the minimal amount, which is the opposite to the way it used to be last century. So what are your thoughts about that change?
I agree with whole foods. I agree with minimizing ultra processed foods, and a lot of them are carbs, the potato chips and so forth. But fiber rich diets feed the gut. They decrease your risk of colon cancer. They decrease your risk of diabetes. They decrease your risk of heart disease. Heart attack is still the leading cause of death in many nations. What I see some positive in it, but I don't agree with everything. I don't agree with increasing saturated fats, eating more red meat, elevating that. We know red meat is considered a carcinogen. It increases the risk of colon cancer. I don't agree with a lot of whole fat dairy products and butter and whole milk and so forth, because we know that cardiovascular disease, specifically blockage of the arteries, starts at a young age. When I was in medical school, they told us about these autopsy studies of teenagers who were in automobile accidents. And they did autopsies and found the beginnings of the blockage of the arteries to the heart, the coronary arteries. And they associated that with all of the whole food, whole fat dairy, the milk, and all of the fat. And so it takes a long time for these things to manifest, but there is
So that
not
there
much debate about that.
There's a lot of newer research coming out, though, which has identified those older studies as having um, those people that were in the studies were having highly processed meats
Mhm.
with a lot of denaturing of the foods. So, or they were deep fried. So there wasn't
Mhm.
actually a difference with how you prepare the food and what minerals and vitamins were available at the end product after processing and preparation. So there's newer research coming out now with organic, naturally produced foods,
Mhm.
and those naturally produced proteins and fats, animal proteins and fats, don't have the same issues as were recorded in those older studies. So it's very new and interesting research coming out, which for me is quite attractive because having had the Hashimoto's and the digestive
Mhm.
issues in the past, I don't have them now anymore. So I must have flipped my genes back to a different
Mhm.
setting, but
Mhm.
I can tolerate all the meats and if when it comes to red meat, I like to have it in soups where it's very well cooked, slow and
Uh-huh.
low. It's nice and soft. All the minerals and the gelatin from the bones and the skin and everything's in there. I think that meat stock is very, very healing for the gut. So I was able to recover from that type of food. But yes, the broccoli and the light vegetables, the salady type high water contributing carbs are still, what I love to have every day as well as all
Mhm.
the other, mixture of, meat and veg. And I found that that works very well for me on all levels. I'm 67, but a lot of people say that, they had no idea I was that old, which is good. I mean, 10 years, 20 years ago, I probably looked older because that's when I went through my sleep problems and, I had a different job and burnt the candle at both ends and wasn't getting enough nutrition due to digestive issues. So I had that perfect storm coming together. But I mean, experience gives you some extra wisdom and knowledge if you think about
Yeah.
why things happened.
Mhm.
So we're coming to an end, and if you'd just like to give us a summary of what you do and where people can find you if they want to know more about your services.
Certainly. Um, I created a framework, PTR Reset, P prevent, T treat, R reverse, and it's based on the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, which is a relatively new medical field that's sweeping the world. Now it's in over 50 countries. And so the focus now is not just treating disease, is about preventing, treating, and reversing diseases naturally with the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine. And so my website is ptrreset.com. And if you go there, you can actually sign up for a free course, a sneak peek into the pillars of lifestyle medicine. I do these mini master classes, 30 minutes to help reset the next 30 years of your life. They're free as well. You can set up a consultation with me, and there are other on-demand courses, but there's plenty that you can get absolutely free to try to jumpstart and reset the next 30 years of your life.
Yeah, wow, that sounds fantastic. I think we all need to learn more about that. Thank you so much for the wonderful information you've given people. I'm sure they'll get a lot out of it.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I hope you liked this conversation and will share it with others. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. If you want to listen to other Body Charge conversations, click like, subscribe, the bell icon, and click all notifications. Subscribe to our newsletter to get updates on blogs, podcasts, videos, and magnesium special offers at electramagnesium.com.au. Relax, recharge, and recover.